Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Tournament Central as we bring you coverage of the final day of the 2023 United States Women's Disc Golf Championships. We're joining you live from Burlington, North Carolina, as our FPO competitors will take their final trip down the fairways of the regulator course in pursuit of the final major championship of the season. My name is Dustin Murray, and I'll be your host on the show this morning, as I've been all week. And joining me, as always, ever dependent, it is Brian Earhart. And Brian, first of all, I have to say, I hope that you're having a good day. And I feel like you probably are, because you're looking a lot less wet today. I feel like the conditions yesterday were a nightmare. And I feel like we have now woken up from that to enjoy the sweet, sweet reality that is sunny skies and low winds.
Absolutely, Dustin. We finally have some sunshine. We're in the 70s right now. The wind is low. Yesterday we had 50 to low 60s in temperature, winds potentially up to 30 miles an hour. And we had 18 holes of rain. So today is just a very welcomed day here for the final round of this major championship. And I think all the players are just thrilled to be back here, ready to go. I mean, there's still numerous players that can make a push, given that your leader, Kristin Tattar, has an average day. Other than that, it's her tournament to win.
Indeed, it is. Of course, coming into this tournament, Tattar was the clear number one player in the world with already 10 wins this season, including all three majors this year, recently becoming a back-to-back world champion. Obviously, a victory this weekend has been the big potential storyline, right? Because it would make Kristin the first FPO player to sweep all the majors in a single season, where there's been 4 majors. She started slow, Brian. This was the first major of the year where she did not have the lead after the first round. In fact, she did not get the lead until hole 18 yesterday, round number 3. She's been battling from behind the entire time, and she's talked through those mental struggles throughout some of the press conferences and interviews that we've seen throughout the course of the week. But through all that, she has put herself now out in front by 2 strokes, and she has now put herself in that front-runner position to go ahead and try to make history today, Brian, with that 2-stroke buffer. So kind of what's your take on Tattar as we, tackle this final round?
Well, yeah, right now it's just a battle between her and Henna. We'll see what happens to Henna today after such a heartbreaking finish on hole number 18. Now she's 2 strokes trailing Kristin, who does love to be in the lead during these final rounds. That way she doesn't have to press, which I've noticed she doesn't really like to do. Kristin likes to stay within her own game plan and just kind of put on cruise control and finish the round. So really, what I saw from Kristin yesterday was she's still not driving the disc as well as I know that she wants to drive the disc. I mean, she only hit, I believe, 28% greens in regulation. Just over a quarter of the holes in the course, whereas Henna almost doubled that percentage. So she needs the number 1 hit fairways. I mean, on this course, it is not a given that if you hit an early tree that you're going to scramble and save par. Some of this underbrush is really frustrating, and you're not going to have stock shots to get up and down if you're getting off these fairways. She just needs to advance, and I think that's what Henna's doing much better than she is. Not to say that Henna is doing that much better. I'm actually shocked watching these players play this course that no one is hitting 75% fairways consistently out here. But you know what? I think it's going to be a great battle. The one thing that I will say, Kristin is so much better suited for 18. She has the disc chosen. She's hitting the gap with ease. It looks very intentional coming out of her hand. And then the second shot, the low ceiling skip forehand, is her specialty. She might be the best in the division at that shot. And on 18, you're pretty much forced to do that unless you have some sort of crazy mid-range backhand roller that you want to try. Henna has not gotten off the tee there well. So even if Henna has the lead, something similar to yesterday could happen. So Kristin, in my opinion, is in the driver's seat by even more than 2 strokes.
Yeah, I actually kind of want to dig into that a little bit with you, Brian. Obviously, we got the whole debacle that happened on 18 on your screen, but if you don't mind, I actually want to kind of stick on Kristin for a little bit longer, because you brought up a kind of a point where you felt like she's not been driving the disc as well as we know that she's capable of doing. Do you think that part of that is just because of this? She's used to the wire-to-wire victory. That's what she's gotten at every other major. this is one of those majors where she's had to battle from behind. So do you think part of it is that battle that she's waging through to kind of get back on top, starting from behind, a position she's not really found herself in very often? Do you feel like it's maybe the weather conditions got the best of her in a couple of occasions? I mean, I definitely saw at least a couple of times yesterday where her plant foot slid out from underneath her on a couple of her approach shots. So is it a combination of those things? Like, what's your take on what you've seen so far, why it's happening, and what will happen today more than likely?
Well, yesterday was, it was a day of survival, as Ohn Scoggins said in her interview yesterday. But, yeah, Kristen slipped a few times, but so did the other players. So
Sure.
I think the fact that she tied the hot round of the weekend yesterday in those conditions, 18 straight holes of rain, Dustin. And we're playing a course that is so severely sloped in certain spots that even walking from one basket to the next tee pad took all of your mental focus to not slide down to three's fairway yet again. So
That's fair.
That's gone. Lance Brown and the whole team out here at Cedar Rock Park have gone out. They've mulched so many of the problem areas on this course, which hats off to these guys. I mean, this whole team has done such a good job. It's such a professionally ran event. I haven't heard a bad word from really anybody about how it's going out here. So Kristen's not going to have to worry about that. Tee pads are obviously going to get swept off, brushed off. I think they're going to look really solid today. And I think Kristen's just going to step up and throw whatever high percentage shot she's feeling that day. And her being able to throw the forehand and the backhand a few different ways, that only plays to her advantage. The big thing is, I don't think we're going to see her press super hard. I think Henna's going to have to shoot a 10 to 12 under par if she wants to take down this victory.
Well, let's go ahead and flip to the other side of that coin then now, because that is the obvious battle that is taking place at the top of the leaderboard. These two players have separated themselves from third place by a good number of strokes, Henna 4 off of third. Obviously, she came into this tournament, a player that has done well at the majors, right? She's got top 10 finishes at Champions Cup and the European Open, recently did it at the MVP Open as well. She was the front runner from the start, right? She shot that 6 under par on day one. She held on to the lead through day two, was still up there, actually created a 2-stroke separation between herself and Tattar to, not be in a tie any longer, but to be the outright leader. And then yesterday, similar to day one, by the way, she got through 17 holes of golf with a clean card, which is a fantastic feat on this course. Was looking like she was going to potentially have a 2 to 3 stroke lead heading into the final round, but we all know what happened on hole 18. It kind of changed everything. I mean, she hits first available off the tee. She struggles on this second approach shot. And then when she gets to her third shot, through all the frustration that's probably built up throughout the course of the day, she winds up playing from the wrong lie. And this ultimately takes what was already a tough situation and adds a stroke penalty to it. And all of a sudden, instead of walking away yesterday with a 2-stroke lead, she walks away with an 8 on hole 18 and now finds herself 2 strokes behind. Now, I'll counter that with the good news is that she's still only 2 strokes off the lead, and she's 4 strokes clear of third, so she is still very much in the mix. She still very much has a chance to make something happen today. I'm just kind of thinking, Brian, your thoughts as a player, how difficult is it going to be for Henna to shake that off and to come into today and just play her game?
Well, I've been making the analogy that Kristen Tattar is the chess engine and the rest of the players chasing her are grandmasters. Obviously, they're really good, but Kristen's playing at another level. In another chess analogy, this is my last one, it felt like Henna played a phenomenal round, but then just lost her queen in a terrible blunder on the final move and lost the game because of it. It felt like just so much work and effort put in that whole round only to make a really foolish mistake. And when something like that happens, you could step up to 18's tee pad tomorrow, or I guess today, and have a terrible memory pop back up into your head. I mean, what happened yesterday on 18 was so rough. And it was rough enough to where it might not be something that she can shake. It'll be a real triumph for her to step up to 18 in a pressure situation and take a birdie or even just hit the gap after what transpired yesterday. So she's going to really have to make a comeback mentally. I think she can, but she's really going to have to build up some momentum. I think the lead is going to have to be a few strokes going into that final hole for her to feel comfortable.
No, I agree with you 100%, Brian. Again, I'll just add a slight positive twist is that, through 2 of the 3 rounds she's played so far, she's been clean through the first 17 holes. So she has typically been throwing the disc pretty well and keeping herself out of trouble. She's also been putting very well. She's been putting right around that 75% range from C1X, which is big for her. That's a huge step up from what we've seen at other tournaments. And so that's something that's also going really well for her that she can hold on to, I think, going into this round. But I think we need to focus on 18 as a setting for everyone, not just Henna. Because let me tell you what, Brian, this hole's not just hurt Henna, it's hurt a lot of players. In fact, Brian, we have gotten through 3 full rounds of hole 18 with a 90-player field, and only 5 players have birdied this hole. One of those players have birdied it twice. That's actually Ohn Scoggins, who's gotten it twice, both times from Circle 2 putting. But outside of that, there's only 4 other players who have found the birdie on this hole. And I'll tell you another thing. The best it's been was day 1, where still 50% of the field found bogey or worse. And these last 2 days, it's been 60% of the field have found bogey or worse. So tell me about this hole, Brian, because it is a scary finishing hole, it seems.
Well, it's only a few feet across, and it's that staggered gap where the tree on the right side is closer than the tree on the left, so it kind of makes the window even smaller when you're lining up that hyzer flip. You really have to challenge that hyzer flip against that tree on the left side, and that's where Henna hit yesterday. This is a very common mistake. If you're a player that likes to throw flat out of the hand, this window is exceptionally tight. Once you hit the gap and you get to the other side, which is a triumph in itself, this second shot as we fly up the fairway is not a stock shot. You don't get to just throw a backhand up there and access circle 1 easily. You have to have some sort of technical roller. You have to get aggressive and play up the high side like Missy Gannon tried to do. Or you have to have that Kristen Tattar style forehand, the low driver shot a couple feet off the ground that gets a giant flare skip and hopefully sticks on the slope. It is a really specific second shot. And to get there, you have to hit a really ridiculous gap. Of course, it's scoring as one of the tougher holes that the players have seen all year.
Indeed. Well, of course, we've hit some of the biggest storylines of this final round, which is the battle between Kristen Tattar and Henna for the title. We've also set up hole 18, the setting that has been quite the drama-filled hole, I guess you could say, over these rounds. But we still have a few more big stories to hit after the break. One of them will, of course, be Ohn Scoggins, who has podium dreams on her hands. We'll talk more about it as we come back from the break.
With a legacy dating back to 2001, Sun King Discs has been instrumental in advancing disc golf across Florida, the U.S., and beyond, partnering with and hosting over 500 events, including the famous Throw Down the Mountain. We are dedicated to bringing joy to players from all walks of life. Explore our extensive disc selection at sunkingdiscs.com and enjoy free shipping on orders of $50 or more. Sun King Discs. Believe in a better way.
And remember, folks, if you're watching this Tournament Central coverage on YouTube, you can catch the rest of the USW DGC action and more upcoming Pro Tour events live on the Disc Golf Network. Use code USWDGCTC as it appears on your screen at checkout for 20% off your first month. You can scan the QR code on your screen or hit the link in the description to subscribe today. And with that said, let's hear from Ohn Scoggins, who has podium aspirations after her first 3 rounds.
Ohn Scoggins, a 3-under par effort today puts you in the running for the lead card tomorrow. Walking over here, you described today as a day of survival. What did you mean by that?
The weather was terrible, sleepily. The hand is so sticky. When you release this, it was harder. The putting was so sticky, just like over the place. It just pretty much like, it's not just only you need to focus on the game, but you need to focus on every walk you have to walk, so it's take away of your focus.
You're usually all smiles when you're playing, very level-headed. You admitted today that frustration got the better of you a couple of times. Talk about what was so frustrating.
Because I know it's a very important day today. I try so hard to move up, and it's frustrating to play in the rain already and then muddy. But I feel like when I have a good drive, and then all I have to do is just pitch up and get birdie, or just pitch up for par. I just could not do that. I just hit the tree, and that was very frustrating. And normally I'm very chill, but today it's got me 2 times like that.
Right now you're sitting in third place at the moment. We'll see how scores finish up for the rest of the players. That said, you've got a little bit of a gap between you and those in front of you. Do you have a sense of how low you'll have to go tomorrow to be in contention?
Man, I feel like tomorrow, if I want to have a chance to win, I need to, 8, 9 down. That's so hard. I don't know, but I will try my best. But I'm pretty sure, whoever win, they work hard on it, they deserve it. And for me, I just try to be top 6 if I can, because first place is kind of pretty much like almost like out of my hand. But hey, I'll give it a try. Like I said, 8, 9 down tomorrow if I want to win. So.
And there's Ohn Scoggins being fairly realistic about her situation. Of course, she is 4 strokes off second place and 6 strokes off the lead, but she is currently on the podium and has a 1-stroke buffer over Haley King and 2 over Sarah Hokum, who are also in the top 5. Of course, it's awesome just seeing Ohn Scoggins out there competing, Brian. I mean, she's obviously had a recent kind of roller coaster ride where for the majority of the year, she's ranked 2nd in the world. She gets her first couple of wins of her career on tour. The win at Mid-America Open, the win at D-Glow. Obviously, injury took her out of Worlds, but then she bounces back with a 2nd-place finish at the MVP Open. She's got 9 additional podium finishes already this season. This would be her 10th if she's able to hold on to 3rd in this major. And this has been a tough tournament for her because she was kind of out of the conversation after round 1, but she made a comeback on day 2, and now she finds herself in a pretty solid position. So kind of what's your take on Scoggins and what she has to do today to kind of either maintain the pace and make sure she gets that podium finish, or is there a way that she can try to, pick something bigger? Is there a way for her to find a bigger goal out of this?
Mm-hmm. I think it needs to be driving, actually. I think, she's hitting a decent amount of fairway. She's, I believe, 68% fairway hits on the weekend, which is okay on a wooded track like this. But she's not finding Circle 1 very well. She's 30-something%. I don't remember the exact number, but in the 30s for Circle 1 in regulation, in the 50s for Circle 2 in regulation. So she's not giving herself that many chances to take birdies out here. She is 22 of 26 from Circle 1. So even in the 18 holes of rain yesterday, she only missed a handful of putts. So over 3 rounds to only miss 4 putts inside C2 on a course like this, that's impressive. I just think she needs to throw some approach shots a little bit better, get the forehand going on some of these more technical par 3s, and just give herself a chance. I mean, the putter's working, but she's not going to shoot that 8, 9 under par if she's not throwing the disc a little bit better off the tee.
That's a fair point. Now, of course, right on her heels is our reigning U.S. WDGC champion. That is Haley King. She is, of course, ranked 3rd in our world ranking. She already has a couple of wins this season from the Dynamic Disc Open, as well as recently at the MVP Open, several other top 5 finishes this season. And she found herself in a 3-way tie for the lead after the first round of this tournament, but has had a bit of a back and forth since then. But a 2 under par yesterday jumped her up in the solo 4th, and we got to catch up with her after the round.
With Haley King after a 2 under par effort in terrible conditions today on the regulator, I want to ask you how you reset and reframe your expectations when the conditions make scores today good scores that perhaps yesterday wouldn't have been good scores.
Well, I know that the rain always makes people play worse. I mean, there's the 1% that play better, but I knew there was going to be a lot of bad scores out there, so I just wanted to limit the bogeys and just take all pars. Honestly, I felt like I did pretty good today. I tried to warm up a little bit earlier, getting the disc wet, getting my hands wet before I even played, so that way I would be accustomed to it already. So I felt like I did better than I really expected to. Yeah.
Any ideas what you feel like you need to do tomorrow to try to achieve a goal, a top 3, a podium, anything like that?
Honestly, at this point, I just want to finish up without getting more hurt.
I got some modest expectations there from Haley King, who, again, is still in the mix for a podium finish, just one stroke off of Ohn Scoggins, handled yesterday pretty well considering the conditions. And, again, Brian, we know this is a player that when she's on, and she's one of the most fierce competitors in the FBO division. She's got that complete game with the forehand and the backhand and the putting to rival Kristen Tattar. And out the gate, it looked like it would be that way. But, again, it's been a little bit touch and go since then. So what's your take on King as we head into this final round and what she's going to be able to accomplish here?
Well, she finally admitted that she's hurt. And I kind of had a hunch throughout the first couple of rounds. And then in round 3, I didn't really get to catch much of her day. But for her to say that, my now take is I'm going to throw any statistic out the window. When you come into a final day where you have to put up a decent number, you're hurt, you just have to trust in the audible that you're making. So when you're hurt, you're trying to shoot a decent score, you're going to have to change the way you throw the disc, whether you club down to something a little bit more flippy, a little bit faster than you normally would like to throw. You have to trust in your angle of release. You have to trust in your timing. And you just have to kind of do anything it takes to make it work. And I mean, Ohn Scoggins had just proven to us that you can do that and you can still score well. Haley's just going to have to stay mentally in it for 18 holes and just trust that, you know what, you're going to throw 50% power, and that's still okay. That's still plenty for her to shoot an incredible score and move up the leaderboard. It's just going to be a very intense few hours for her out there in regards to focus.
Yeah, and speaking of injury, we did have some bad news we have to share, and that is that Kat Mertsch has had to withdraw from the tournament. After round 1, she was within the top 20 on the leaderboard and was only a few strokes off the lead, so she was definitely in contention out the gate, but injury had kind of taken over since then. She did wind up finishing round 3, but the back issues caused her to fall out of contention, and last night she announced that she would DNF. Now, she also said that she would no longer be playing the Clash of the Carolinas event, which was something that she was going to play prior to Throw Pink. And, I mean, at this point, we're not sure, how serious this injury is. Is it going to take her out of the Throw Pink tournament? She's also obviously ranked 6th in our tour standing, so she was very much going to be a participant in the Pro Tour finale. So, I mean, I guess at this point it's just going to have to be wait and see. But obviously, we're wishing Kat the best. And any thoughts from you on this one, Brian?
It actually brings me back to when I was touring with Paul Ulibarri very briefly in 2019. We were playing the Portland Open, and I actually think it was the Masters Cup, and it was a little bit muddy out there, and he was working with his form, and he slipped, and on that slip, he tore his ACL, and he was out for the rest of the year, and it kind of changed the course of his career as a player. I don't think Kat Mertsch had something that severe happen. It sounds like it was just a tweak on her back, but stuff like that happens when you play in bad weather, especially when you're playing for a major championship and you're putting all of your commitment into every shot. It happens. We put a lot of force into that brace when we're throwing the backhand. And when you put all that force in and then your foot doesn't stick, that's a recipe for a disaster. And I'm surprised that more players don't have this happen with all the bad weather that we've had this year. Wish her the best of luck. I hope that it is just a tweak and that she has this week off to rest and hopefully get ready for the Throw Pink Championship.
I could agree with you more, Brian. Wishing her the best is all we can really do, and take care of yourself there, Kat Mertsch. But we are going to take one more break. When we come back, though, we'll be talking about some of our competitors on the chase card, including Sarah Hokum, who will be first to tee off. And so we'll see you after a short break.
Tattar looking confident early. That is now 8 straight birdies.
Kristen has nothing to lose.
Tattar from the circle's edge for birdie. The punctuation mark on a dominant week in Emporia. Kristen Tattar, for the first time since 2004, a European champion at the Worlds.
At Discraft, we don't wait to see what the future holds. We build it. The future is in your hands.
And folks, welcome back here at Tournament Central. It's our last segment before we kick off this final round of the U.S. Women's Disc Golf Championship. And let's talk a little bit about our chase card, who will be teeing off here shortly. On the top of that card is going to be Sarah Hokum-Bryan. She's a player who is ranked within the top 20 in our world rankings, and she's been on a bit of a hot streak here towards the end of the season, coming 3rd at Ledgestone, 6th at Idlewild, 8th at D-Glow. She also was 8th at the Champions Cup earlier this year, a Wooded Major, and also was someone who placed in the top 5 at the European Open, another big major this year. So she's gotten it done on some of the biggest stages, and she finds herself still hunting for a podium finish here out in Burns, North Carolina, Brian.
Yeah, you know what? I looked at the stats, and there's a pretty clear description as to why she's not gunning for the title right now. First off, she's only missed 8 fairways out of 54 holes that they've played so far. She is first place easily in fairway hits, and that's pretty phenomenal when you're playing a track like this at the regulator. With that, she has missed 10 Circle 1 putts this week, and those are all putts that you probably could get back. I mean, obviously, there's some Circle 1 putts on this course that are maybe from some precarious positions that you might lay up, but really, those 10 strokes, I mean, even if you make 8 of them, you're going to be right there in the mix. I mean, she's going to be gunning for the title, no problem. So Sarah just needs to show up, do the exact same thing that she did yesterday and the day before, stick those fairways, get off the tee, advance the fairway. In these better conditions with the way that she likes to putt, she's going to have a big advantage out here. That kind of push putt style that she likes to have is going to be much better suited for today. Hopefully she can stick some more Circle 1 putts, and we'll see her right there in the mix. I think she could potentially take down a podium if she has a really solid round today.
Absolutely could. She's in solo 5th and only 2 strokes off of that podium, so definitely someone that's still very much in competition for it. Now, there's a few players tied for 6th who are just 3 strokes off the podium, and the first one's going to be Luque Lorenzen, ranked in the top 30 in our world rankings. A strong second half of the season, Brian. Was able to come 7th at the PCS Open, 6th at Idlewild, 7th at Worlds, probably the biggest finish of her career there. She shot 4 under across the first 3 rounds to join our chase card for the final round, and again, she's just 3 strokes off the podium, so she's become a name that's been, you know, kind of up there towards the top a little more often, Brian. So kind of what's your take on Lorenzen as we head into this final round?
I mean, you watch her throw and you're not surprised. She has a very solid, athletic-looking throw. She has good control over a flat shot. She has good hyzer flip. She's got a good forehand. And then she's got that really dynamic spin putt that I really enjoy watching. In the woods, when you have some tight lines, some framed-up putts, having a spin putt like that is a really solid tool in the arsenal. We'll just have to see. I mean, she's still proving herself. She's still getting better as a player, and it's only going to serve her to play on a chase card in front of the cameras, in front of the crowd, at a major championship. This is a great place for her to continue to gain experience, and next year I have no doubts we're going to see her name even more.
I hear you. Now, another name that we hear a lot is, of course, Evelina Salonen, currently ranked 7th in the UDIS World Rankings and just recently finished 4th at Worlds and 4th at the MVP Open and has several other, you know, top 15 finishes on the tour this year. She also finds herself in that tie for 6th, just a few strokes off the podium. Kind of what's your take on Evelina, as this is someone who we've seen start emerging in Circle 1 putting a little bit more often, but it's had a little bit touch-and-go putting throughout this tournament. How do you feel about her chances heading into this final round?
I mean, she is we got to look at this. She is 7 strokes off the lead, I believe. Or is it 9 strokes off the lead? And she's missed 17 Circle 1 putts this week. That's it. That's there you go. That's all we really need to analyze. I mean, she's throwing the disc phenomenally well. She's doing everything that she needs to do. I mean, 17. You can still miss 6 Circle 1 putts on the week and win the tournament. No problem. So she needs to show up today and do what she did at MVP, move to leaderboard, easy recipe. That's all we have to say.
Fair enough, Brian. Well, we're going to go ahead and bid you adieu, Brian, but we're going to be hearing from you throughout the day from the course, getting us the insights. As Christy Oont will be our final member of the chase card. She has some top 5 finishes from the Euro Pro Tour, and this is her first major, and she finds herself in a tie for 6th and potentially a chance to get the podium. So a pretty cool story from Estonia there and Christy Oont. But that's going to do it for us on Tournament Central. Make sure you stick around after the broadcast, though, as we will have an exclusive interview with today's winner, as well as some highlights and reactions from everyone else. So, folks, enjoy the round as we're about to pass it directly to our booth with Terry Miller and Valerie Jenkins, as they're going to bring you the coverage for our final round of this major. So definitely stay tuned, folks.